If you watched the last video, you know exactly what's happening today. A bit of a nervous day, but an exciting day at the same time. Because of the weather, I decided to crack on with Esther's jobs inside the garage. And then it was time to hit the road. Sitting in this current bit of traffic for about 20 minutes now. But yeah, this is grim. Ah, looks like there's a truck stranded. Welcome to Surrey Rolling Road. Saf Cozzy.
By George, your bonnet weighs as much as a biscuit.
Dyno session is over and hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and if you watched the last video, you know exactly what's happening today, because today I'm taking my favourite car, Esther, the ST170 powered Mk1 Escort, back on the rolling road with tuning legend Chris Todd to see if we can make any more power than we did last time. We have now, of course, got the ported cylinder head from A.L.Developments. I will, of course, leave all their links in the description. If you're looking for any head work, definitely get in touch with them. They're big in the game. There's some big names out there running A.L.Development cylinder heads and engines, making seriously decent times down Santapod. And yeah, I can't wait to see how Esther is going to benefit from her A.L.Development cylinder head. Now, I've just dropped my Tranex limited slip diff off to the diff man that I recently removed from my Mk2 Escort, and I'm hoping that that's not going to need anything. I think it may have been set up a little bit too tight last time. I do like them aggressive. Yeah, hopefully that will just need a setup and no parts. But yeah, as you can probably hear, it's raining, and I do have a couple of bits I want to do to Esther before we get on the road and take her to Surrey Rolling Road. Rolling Road Day is always a bit of a nervous day, but an exciting day at the same time. And yeah, I can't wait to see how Esther does today. Because of the weather, I decided to crack on with Esther's jobs inside the garage, starting with resetting the exhaust cam timing, which was just a case of undoing these Allen key bolts and then turning this Torx bolt to adjust the timing. I set the exhaust vernier back to 4 degrees retard, which was how it was before, and then tightened the Allen key bolts back up. And then I ran the engine to make the oil nice and thin so that I could do the oil change. Once the car was jacked up, I removed the sump plug to drain the oil. Then I refitted the sump plug and then removed the oil filter, which I replaced, of course, with a genuine Ford oil filter, and these are available on my website. I then lowered the car back down and topped the engine up with some fresh 5W30 fully synthetic engine oil. Then I unplugged the coil pack to turn the engine over to build up oil pressure before plugging the coil pack back in and starting the engine properly. And then it was time to hit the road and make my way to the dyno. Alright, so I've been sitting in this current bit of traffic for about 20 minutes now. The sat-nav's still saying that I'm going to reach Surrey Rolling Road at 10 to 7, and I've actually added a stop now to a Shell garage which is close to the Rolling Road. So yeah, we're still on track, but yeah, this is grim. Driving a car that's, you know, potentially not tuned right, in the rain. Oh, I just want to get there. One thing I do need to mention though, I keep forgetting to mention it in videos, the Classic Ford show, which is on the 14th of May, I'm having my own club stand there, and the deadline for club stand tickets has passed, but they've extended the deadline now. So if you want to join me on my club stand at the Classic Ford Show on the 14th of May at the South of England Showground, I think it's called, then do drop me an email and I'll send you details about how you can actually get on the stand. All Classic Fords welcome. You know, I don't, you know, turn my nose up at people's cars. I know some club stands, they like to sort of have the best club stand, but as far as I'm concerned, if you want to join me on my stand, if you enjoy my videos, you want to come and chill out, and you've got a Ford that's pre-2003, because that's the rules of the show, then you're more than welcome, so drop me an email. Well, it looks like we've reached the problem. Oh, it looks like there's a truck stranded. Hopefully we can start moving along a bit quicker now. Let's get some fuel and then it's just a short drive. Welcome to Surrey Rolling Road. Alright, so after a little bit of a wait, it's Esther's turn to get on the rollers. A really cool Saf Cozzy over there. And they were the friends of the guy who's just been on the rollers before me. And he's also in a Saf Cozzy. What a machine. That Saf Cozzy made 400 horsepower, but it ran out of injectors, so yeah, still more in it. Time to get Esther on the rollers. All right, Chris, here we go again, mate.
Yes, mate. Nice to see you back.
No, nice to see you. Massive thanks for squeezing me in so quick, man. I really, really appreciate that.
That's all, mate. My God, your bonnet weighs as much as a biscuit.
Yeah, when you don't have any power, you need to reduce the weight. Well, he's all strapped down. And I'm having an apple. Chris is working his magic in there on the computer. I think he's going to have a little look at the cold start first, seeing as she is cold, and yeah, the cold start was never set up properly. And then I think he said he wants to adjust the balance on the throttle bodies. It's mad how he can sort of hear it by ear that they're not balanced. Cold start improved and balancing in progress. Very important to make sure that all four cylinders are sucking the same amount of air as each other. Chris started by optimising the tune lower down the rev range. And then he gradually started pushing the engine further and further up the rev range. And then eventually he was ready to do some full throttle runs. Time for some noise. No matter what Chris tried, he wasn't able to get the engine to produce any more than about 182 to 183 horsepower. Right, time for a cam swing, which to be fair has yielded results in the past, but this ain't the past, is it? This is today. Yeah, so I'll set this back to 4 degrees today, which was how it was before.
Going back to 8 degrees retard.
8 degrees retard. Well, that did nothing. Chris is going to wind it the other way now and we'll see what happens. It's funny, with the first ST170 engine I put in this car, we ended up going slightly advanced from 0. And then with this engine, it needed slightly retarded from 0. Like, so, you know, every engine's different. Obviously, this is still the same engine, but a different cylinder head, so... Alright, well, dyno session is over and we ended up with 188.7 horsepower, but that was with me holding the bonnet up. Although last time we made 184.9 horsepower with me holding the bonnet up. So yeah, pretty much the same as last time, you know, 3.8 horsepower more. Yeah, not what I was expecting, but I'm only going by figures that I've seen on the internet where people say they've got 210 horsepower with the same cylinder head, obviously on a different dyno and whatnot. Yeah, I don't lose sleep over figures. I'm just glad that she's running sweet. Do you want to just talk us through what you're saying about airspeed and stuff? Why the ported cylinder head might not be doing what I was expecting it to?
Yeah, so on an engine where, okay, say the cylinder head's not really a restriction, if you increase the port size, essentially you are slowing down the speed of the air that actually goes into the cylinder, or it can, you know, depending on where the restriction is. I've seen very little sort of positive results until camshafts are changed, you know, where you can increase the time the valves are open or by how much they're open.
Yeah.
Obviously we've swung the cam timing around for the exhaust cam, which has helped a little bit, but, you know, again, very small gains. So trying more ignition timing, playing around with the inlet VVT, this is the best power we can get.
Yeah.
So.
And you were saying that potentially, obviously we won't know until I try it, but potentially the ported cylinder head will make Larry cams work better.
I think it will.
If that was the next step.
I think you'll see, you might lose some power at lower RPM.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
You always do, but I think that's where the gains will come.
Yeah.
You know, I think you'll start from possibly 4,500, 5,000 revs. It will really start to shine then.
Cool.
So.
All right, well, as always, thanks for your time.
No, really pleasure to see you again, mate.
Yeah, and you, man.
Thank you.
So now I really want I want Larry cams now.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, we'll just pack up, get Esther off the rollers, and then we can get out of Chris's way. As always, as I say to anyone who gets in touch with me asking about tuning, if you need a proper tuner to work on your car, definitely give Chris a shout. I'll leave links in the description. Usually Facebook's the best to contact you, is it?
Right, yeah, on my CT tuning page.
Okay, cool. I'll leave all his links in the description. You will have to wait because he's very high in demand. Do a burnout. Hello, into a new day. Now, I ended up getting back from the dyno really late because of roadworks and stuff, but as usual, whenever I go on the dyno, I want to end this video by having a little look at the graph and compare it to the graph we got when we last went on the dyno with Esther. So here is the graph from our dyno session before. This was when we had the standard cylinder head, and here is the graph from the other day. Now, last time we made 184.8 horsepower, not 184.9 like I thought. So the difference this time, peak, is 3.9 horsepower. So, you know, basically exactly the same. But I have noticed some gains throughout the rev range, which I'm going to show you now. All right, it's worth noting that this old graph doesn't have the torque curve like this one does. This is torque, foot-pounds, and this is horsepower. On the old graph, this is actually the air-fuel ratio, and the scale for that is down there. So, yeah, unfortunately, we can't compare torque for torque. But on the old setup, if we look at 150 horsepower, we actually reached 150 horsepower at bang on 5,000 revs. Whereas with the new tune, and this scale is slightly different than this, which makes it a bit confusing, but with the new tune up, the 150 horsepower is here, and as you can see, it's actually way before 5,000 because that's 4.9 and it's a couple of squares before that. So that's good news. Also, in terms of, you know, getting up to 185 or 188 horsepower, it actually gets to 185 horsepower about there, which is a couple of squares back from 6,200 revs. So you could say, 6,000 revs, 5.8, 5.9, 6,000 revs, something like that. Whereas with the old setup, we don't get to 185 horsepower until probably 1.5 squares before 6,500 revs. So, there's two examples of the fact that the new setup, it gets up to, peak power a lot sooner. With the old setup, you can see that, it pretty much starts to tail off around here and, gradually, admittedly, until the rev limiter, but, it definitely starts to tail off around here, which is a couple of squares back from 7,000. So, you could say 6.8-ish. Whereas on this setup, I actually think that it was pretty much holding right to the rev limiter. So I'm definitely thinking that I should up the rev limiter on Esther's setup. It's obviously, you can tell by the torque curve on this graph that, it's certainly not going to be rising. It's certainly not going to be making any more power. And yeah, it's going to be a waste of time, revving it much higher than that. But I definitely do reckon I should raise the rev limiter slightly. And then when I get a shift light hooked up, set that shift light to, say, 6.8. And if we have a look right down the other end of the rev range, there's some gains down there as well. For instance, let's look at the old one again. So for instance, if we look at where it makes 100 horsepower, it's about there, which is, halfway between 3,500 revs and 4,000 revs. So, 3,750, you could say. It's making 100 horsepower. Whereas on this setup, it's actually making it 1.5 to 2 squares back from 3,600 revs. So yeah, a couple of hundred revs down. So, even though we've got a little bit of extra at the top, basically a little bit extra everywhere, it's also making more power earlier, low down as well. So, the drivability in a way is better. You're not losing anything down here at all. It's just gained a little bit everywhere. So yeah, saying that it's only 3.9 horsepower more is not the whole story. It is making more power everywhere, even if it is only a little bit. And as Chris explained to us, if I was to go with Larier cams later on, then the ported cylinder head will really come into its own. I'm definitely not thinking about doing that straight away. But yeah, I do want to change the cams at some point. I've got to figure out whether I should go for the slightly Larier cams, which means you can keep the VVT, or whether I should lock off the VVT and go for really Larier cams. So that's a decision that I've got to make. But yeah, this is all part of the fun. Sometimes you don't get the gains that you expected or you wanted. I've had it in the past with the dry sumped crossflow engine that used to be in Maud, my Mk2 Escort. I didn't have a YouTube channel then, but yeah, we sort of experimented with running different carbs and different chokes in the carbs, and that was another situation where I didn't make massive gains, but it's all part of the fun of messing around with old Fords. So that's it for this video. I do want to send a massive thanks out to the guys at A.L.Developments for sorting me out with the ported cylinder head. I will leave all their links in the description. They are big in the game when it comes to cylinder heads and that sort of thing. Definitely get in touch with them if you're after a cylinder head or engine work, and definitely let them know that I sent you. And if you're in the market for any tuning and you want a proper tuner to work on your car, I will leave Chris's links in the description. Definitely go and follow his CT tuning page on Facebook. Other than that, I'm going to end this video here. If you did think it was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe if you're new to keep up to date with all my future uploads. Do check out my website for merch and parts. Feel free to follow me on all my other social media accounts. Massive thanks to all my patrons for your ongoing support. All the links for all of that will be in the description as usual, along with my email address for anyone who wants to contact me. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.